In between the goon sessions this game provides, NIKKE is home to long-term pain, hurt, and irreversible suffering. It's a given that in a post-apocalyptic world these things are in abundance, but far too often does this suffering occur to beloved characters like Red Hood, Dorothy, and now Cinderella. Cinderella was a beacon of hope, a pure light standing by to accompany the goddesses and bring mankind one step closer to victory. But that pure light was tainted an abyssal red, betrayed by its kin, an ultra-thick scientific saint sneaker enthusiast, changing its hue for good. This is the beautiful suffering of Cinderella. Imagine being the biggest disappointment, not just to your parents, but the biggest failure mankind had ever seen up until you. Mankind placed their hopes and trust in you, and you kinda blew it. The new-gen fairytale models were on standby for so long, conducting test after test, doing their very best to prove their worth on the battlefield. When that day came when Cinderella was approved for deployment, it was the moment of truth for every one of them. Cinderella, Abe's most beautiful creation, was at the helm of their dreams. Beep boop boop bop, just like that, she turned into a knob. Cinderella was no more. Anakiro was born. Being a massive disappointment already hurts, but for Cinderella, it was the beginning of a long train of pain. Losing control of her body, Cinderella was on the path of destruction against her will. Countless murders and one-sided bloodbaths, all were done by her own hands. Anakiro's hands, as she watched helplessly. I've had my fair share of times when I lost control of parts of my body, but nothing comes close to losing yourself completely and becoming an angel of death. After some time, Cinderella came up with a plan to stop the relentless killing. She planned to drag herself over to where the goddesses were and fight them head-on, hoping to lose. Her plan is successful, and the goddesses have a bittersweet victory, but they mercifully leave Cinderella alive. It wasn't much of a mercy though, since Cinderella's next destination was the lab, where she would be experimented on and dissected ruthlessly. After being cured of corruption by the effects of unchained blood, Cinderella gets tortured for what it seems like an eternity. This was the hardest thing to get through. I don't even have the heart to make a sexual innuendo, because I would rightfully be labeled as a tasteless psychopath. At long last, Abe comes to the rescue and breaks Cinderella out. If I had someone looking out for me like Abe does to Cindy, I would probably be in the same place. Betrayal hurts, and to realize after so much pain that your own comrade was responsible, I can't even imagine. Except I can because it's depicted very well in the story. Red Shoes is diabolical, insane, and completely devoid of humanity. If you look into the files a bit, you'll read more into her experimentations and how she reacted to progressions and failures. One horrific example was when a NIKKE was given corruption successfully. The poor NIKKE, presumably out of desperation, ended her life immediately after. But enough of that twinkle toes bitch. So when Red Shoes confessed her psychotic desires to make Cinderella a complete slave to the raptures, it doesn't take much to understand why Cindy obliterated her. Visual ASMR at its finest. The killing of Red Shoes was justified, but this escalated another issue. Her fellow second-gen companions already found it difficult to fully trust Cinderella after her corruption incident, but with the sudden death of Red Shoes, things only got worse. This was another breaking point for Cinderella. To lose yourself and your dear friends in a span of months was all too much to handle. After being denied by her friends, Cinderella escaped to an isolated area and marinated in a deep depression. There she loathed the course that life decided to take her, wishing for it all to end so she could be erased from the timeline. The pursuit of beauty was over. Or so we thought. Abe can't have her creation commit Sudoku, so she appears out of nowhere and slaps the depression out of Cindy. Fanboy Oswald also pulls up with Cindy's friends, convincing them that the Red Shoes murder was pretty cool. He also said other things that made the NIKKE community guzzle buckets of his Elmer's glue for about a week or so. So there it is. Surely this was the happy ending we were hoping for Cinderella, right? Surely after being brutally tortured, betrayed, and watching an imposter of herself kill thousands of innocents that the devs would give her a break, no? Hell no. What do you think NIKKEs were made for in the first place? Giving Commander back problems at the age of 30? Well, you would be correct. But Cinderella and her squad had unfinished business with the queen. There was no longer a place for them in the Ark as they were already labeled as traitors to humanity, so the only option was to go out in style. Confidence was brewing with the squad, but they all knew deep down this was basically a suicide mission. To go toe-to-toe with the Queen of the Raptures meant giving everything they had left to give, and give they did. One by one during the lift up to the mothership, each member was lost until the last remained. The glass shoe that was left behind to bring an end to the suffering. The quest to rewrite her story and returning as a NIKKE for humanity is honorable, no doubt. But you've got to wonder if the sweet embrace of death was a more merciful end for Cinderella. I know, that sounds terrible. But hear me out. It's great that after being dormant for so many years, she was reunited with Abe and found her Prince Charming, but the road ahead is dark and stretches far from sight. Now that she's surrounded by more people she deeply cares for, what's stopping fate from her losing them again? What's stopping the devs from picking her up with a pair of chopsticks and throwing her onto the grill? What's stopping me from oiling up and paying the Shift Up HQ a visit to firmly shake the hands of the writers? Old Tales was yet another great example of how the writers have the competence to write a beautiful, cohesive, yet relatively short story that plays with your emotions like a cello. We didn't even scratch the surface with Grave's story, and that's another one-way ticket to absolute sorrow that I'd rather save for another time. Oh, you want to hear about it now? You know she also gets experimented on, right? Not just that, but years and years of isolation, being betrayed by mankind, forgetting who you are in your old, broken body. This game just hates these girls, doesn't it? It's been banger after banger with this game, and honestly, I feel bad for all those who are turned away from all the Gooner shit. I should say that's their loss, but I understand. Clenching your own cheeks is already so tiring, but to clench multiple, that takes a strong heart. Also, NIKKE, what are we doing? This would be such a cool wallpaper. Just erase the rat in last place. It doesn't even make sense when it should be dead by the time they fight the queen. NIKKE does not pull its punches. The constant suffering of a plethora of beautiful women is almost a given. They rope you in with giant cushions, but you willingly stay for the grit, the hardships, the tragedies, the unbreakable bonds, and the undeniable hope for a better future for all in your harem. Make no mistake, this game has soul. As the developers code with one hand, they want to create a story that they're proud of, and I have respect for that talent. Usually need two hands to edit my NIKKE videos. Shout out to all the bros who play this game and spread the gospel. You know who you are. To all you beautiful people watching this video, I hope the VTuber you're simping for is doing well. What a great event, huh? I mean, leave it to these guys to pull off an absolute banger of a second anniversary. I've been staring at my Cinderella homepage for like days now. I never get tired of it. It's so good. I don't regret it one bit. Okay, maybe a little bit.